Sorry about that. I was, what was I doing? Technology, man. I'm Skip Elsheimer of avgeeks, and I'm back at the archive, and so there's all this technology and machinery that demands my attention, and so I apologize for that. So we just watched a 16 millimeter film of the Grand Canyon. And I gotta say, over the years, I have transferred and scanned a lot of Grand Canyon footage, and none of it compares to actually going to the Grand Canyon. There's something about the 4:3 range, the aspect ratio of what I was transferring, and just the scale is not there. And it was intense. It was really, I didn't think I would be really impressed with it, but it was really intense and pretty amazing. So, post-pandemic travel plans, go to the Grand Canyon. It's super corny, but there's just something about the vastness and insanity of it. So there you go. One of my goals in life is to do a traveling home movie day, where I do a home movie day in every state. I do 50 home movie days in 50 weeks and do it in 50 states. And what I would love to do is show home movies of a given location at the location. So set up at the Grand Canyon and show movies of the Grand Canyon while you're looking at the Grand Canyon. And do the same with Niagara Falls and some of these other places that were common places that people would shoot when they traveled. Back when people had a couple of month summer vacations where they would just pack all their kids in a car and drive all over the United States back in the 30s, 40s, 50s. Anyways, in case you wonder what a library is, this film will tell you. This is The Library Is.
Morning, and the sun that scattered the stars to flight, some hours later strikes Omar's turret with a shaft of light. The same sun, whose beams reflect from the hubcaps now. Great traditions rest on daily attentions, daily energies, the daily reopening of the gates to the accumulated knowledge of all the ages, even our own. Mindful that she is keeper of the flame, so to speak, the librarian may sometimes ponder the dim beginnings of collected wisdom, of the early archives of Babylon and Phoenicia, of the Minoans and the Mycenaeans, or perhaps of the splendid collection of cuneiform texts at Nineveh. The library began in the sense of wonder, of magic, of divine power that early men associated with the written word. Where parchment and papyrus were, there was a holy place, a sacred grove, older even than Academe. Warriors may sing of Hector and Lysander, but librarians chant, however rarely, of Plato and Epicurus, and rightfully enough, of the peripatetic school founded by Aristotle, thus beginning an epoch of scientific research whose end is not yet in sight. Athens was active in the book trade. Private collectors included Euripides, Xenophon, Polybius, Plutarch. Beneath the Acropolitan heights, a Greek librarian carved this legend over his door: the medicine chest of the soul. In those days, books and tablets, papyri and parchments were placed on shelves by willing slaves working for a pittance. In the ancient library at Alexandria, a librarian named Callimachus created the first biographical catalog of the authors whose works were preserved there. He never, alas, became head of the library, that being several thousand years before Horatio Alger. but he is known today as the father of all librarians. This great library is the same one that Julius Caesar partially burned and other men entirely destroyed several centuries later. This was not to be the last time that men burned books, although one hopes the book burner and the censor will one day be gone. But war, however damaging to libraries, has at least been a spur to literature. For the library is part of the human tradition. But we have said so much to one another, put so much of ourselves upon parchment first and paper later, that no man-made structure on earth could comprehend it all. To be a librarian, then, is to choose, to select, to say in effect that this place sums up the world. With the help of the librarian, it sets forth in that direction, to cope with all that people set down from age to age. The Romans, Cicero and Pliny tell us, had great private collections of books, and the cities of the empire gathered them together, from Greece before to us afterwards. But the Romans looked askance at books from conquered Carthage, Asia Minor, Syria, and Egypt, thus blotting out an unmeasured treasure from our classical heritage. After Rome, the writing, copying, and keeping of books devolved upon the monks. The codex, or typical book form, took over from the pagan papyrus roll. The renewed popularity of books required that they be chained to the very shelves that gave them shelter. Gutenberg spawned what McLuhan called his galaxy in the 15th century, thus beginning, in a small way, what some have called the media explosion. If you would see Gutenberg's monument, climb out from under. The chained volumes are gone. Now library gates open up to a wider world with bookcases built unto the very ceilings, balconies for easy access to the upper shelves, books emerging from reading and study areas, the long, long rectangular trails into the very core of this benign labyrinth, the caverns, measureless to man. Bibliodemocracy in action. Books within the reach of all. Within reach, that is, if you can find the books. To be a librarian, then, is to organize, to look at the entire range of human learning and to categorize it. Sir Francis Bacon came up with a chart of learning, little knowing that a certain Melville Dewey would put it into decimalized terms whose format may reflect a valid point of view. Surely to distinguish between the useful and the fine arts is to propound some sort of philosophy. Consider, too, the Library of Congress system, which also pays tribute to Bacon's chart of all we know or ever need to know. That the Library of Congress puts bibliography and library science under the Z category could be further proof that librarians are perhaps more modest than they should be. Cataloging goes on and on, like a river seeking the sea. But while men can categorize human knowledge, they have not yet found its limits. which is one reason why librarians work hard to keep up with the flow. To put a book in the position where reasonable people can find it in reasonable time is not the least of the arts. Among the problems of putting books in their place is what to do with those that are too tall for the shelves that happen to be where Dewey, Cutter and Company decided they should be. With the very furniture of the library becoming an added factor in the calculation. Today, the book has become a resource, along with many others, records and tapes, films and film strips, magazines and newspapers, but they are only packages of ideas. To work with them, whatever their size and shape, whatever their merits, is to work with the mind of the world. Let these resources be found. Let them be used. To be a librarian is to promote, to quicken the interest, to point the way, to encourage the young to apply for this magic card that opens books and doors. Norman Cousins said, "A library is not a shrine for the worship of books. It is not a temple where literary incense must be burned or one's devotion to the bound book is expressed in ritual. A library, to modify the famous metaphor of Socrates, should be the delivery room for the birth of ideas, a place where history comes to life." In terms of the ebb and flow of books and people, the time has come when man's best friend does not bark. He hums and whirs and flashes little lights. The work goes on. The librarian's place in the universe is as assured as that of the rest of mankind, as assured as those who write the books. "Go, little book," said Southey. "From this my solitude I cast thee on the waters. Go thy ways. And if, as I believe, thy vein be good, the world will find thee according to thy worth. Go, little book, in faith I send thee forth." The faith of writers is buttressed by the honest enterprise of publishers who lavish praise upon the books they print. Quantity may sometimes overwhelm, but the thought and the spirit of books and the libraries that send them forth widen the view outward and inward. These two directions whose panoramas have limits perhaps, but we have yet to reach them. In the library, Prince Andrew still lies wounded at Austerlitz, seeing in the skies above the greatness of the world and the smallness of Napoleon. Down a Mississippi that is ours forevermore, Huck and Jim see the world not only as it was, but as it must always be. Here grow gardens as idealized as Eden. Here the vroom vroom in the mind may be adventure enough, or it may not be, for there are many wheels to turn before we're through. Here the moon is diversion, or if you will, destination. Men and women with a more nearly perfect city, state, nation, and world in mind think better when they know what others have to say on the subject. Relief, not merely from the common cold, but from the killing pains of disease. Not quickly from existing pills, but in God's good time, if man could learn enough. The library of medicine. Vast though it is, it could be much, much larger, if enlarged by the yet unwritten volumes of what we still have to learn. At the library, The young cast off, little by little, some of the unfelt but quite real limitations of youth. Here, wisdom is at least a possibility. Here, the old take arms against the onrush of time. The past is no mere figment of our imagination. As it lives, so we live. Life flourishes while men can still learn. Here, for all the seeming silence, our much commented upon human condition cries out for recognition. And from the shelves, men cry for worlds that are far, far better than any we have ever known. Still, they bid us enjoy this one while we have use of it. Thus, the library. Like man himself, it is always under construction.
So it looks like Brodart, which I had never heard of before, makes library supplies, and they still exist. I looked up Brodart, and it brought up a shopbrodart.com. So they're a big fan of libraries because that's who they sell to. It's kind of fascinating. All right. I know what you've been asking for, what you're thinking about, is I would love to see a Cold War educational film about the dangers of communism. Well, here it is. You asked for it. Cafe Berlin. Enjoy.
Berlin, a city smoldering with diplomatic intrigue and torn between conflicting loyalties. Potsdamer Platz, dividing East Berlin from West Berlin. A solemn and frightening reminder of the Cold War that goes ceaselessly on.
Well, that winds up his career. First Henderson and now him. Looks like open season on secret agents, and those Reds sure play for keeps. I don't have to tell you that, do I, Rudy?
Nein. I lived with them. Saw them shoot my cousin and drag off my father. And every day I get down on my knees and say, Gott sei Dank, that I'm in the service of free Germany.
I know exactly how you feel.
Yeah. We live in a mixed-up world, Herr Major.
Our Soviet friends aren't doing much to unscramble it either. Take that over to headquarters. Should go out to Washington with tonight's packet.
Ja, Herr Major.
This is not an easy assignment, gentlemen, and even though you're one of our best teams, I must warn you that on this mission you must particularly watch yourselves. There's no margin for error. The unfortunate experience of our other agents should make that very clear.
We understand that, sir.
One thing more, you're to go separate ways as if total strangers. except for such secret meetings as you might arrange.
Yes, sir.
And at times, according to plan, you will report your progress to Major Norcross at Berlin Intelligence.
Right.
Well, then, that just about does it. But never forget that you're dealing with a ruthless spy ring. They're smart, too. Confidential information keeps leaking across to Red Berlin. Who they are, where they get their information, how they send it, we don't know. The focal point is Das Kleine Café. That's all we're sure of. Well, from here on, the ball's yours. You'll leave for Berlin tonight. Good luck.
Thank you, sir.
Good luck.
Thank you, sir.
Bartender, little service. Anybody home? Bartender.
Guten Morgen, mein Herr.
Well, hello, Fräulein. Connie, gehabt ein Bier?
Your German is very bad. Perhaps you get along better if you speak English.
Honey, I'll speak anything you want me to. It'll make us get along better.
A beer, is that what you wish?
What I wish I'm not telling, but a beer will do for a start. I was looking at the place outside. It's quite a joint, but, sister, between you and me, it's starting to age a little. Did you ever think what a nice coat of paint would do for it? Now, you look. I've got a nice shade of gray here. Now, for luster and durability, you can't beat our bright glow paints.
I'm really not interested.
Oh, you're not? Well, how about the boss? Is he interested?
I'm the boss.
Oh, you are?
Yes, and you are wasting your time.
I don't think so. Well, we can't do any business. How about the fellow that owns a hotel? Think he'd be interested in the paint job?
I run the hotel.
Well, you are an eager beaver.
Eager beaver?
Well, eager beaver in this case is about the most glamorous woman I have run into since I hit Berlin. You know, this place has an attraction for me. Too bad that I checked in at the Hotel Wilhelm, but I could be persuaded to move.
The Wilhelm is a good hotel.
Yes, but I like this one better. Any vacancies?
A few.
Look, why don't you break down, pull out the welcome mat?
You would not like the rooms. They are all in need of paint.
Honey, you should see my room at the Wilhelm. Why, nobody's touched that place since Bismarck slept there.
All right. This room is 70 marks by the week.
So? I'll bring my bags over later.
You intend to stay here long?
Oh, till all Berlin has a new coat of paint, which gives us more time to get better acquainted.
Oh, I beg your pardon. May I have your name for the register?
Oh, I'm sorry. Bradley Connors. You may call me Brad.
Thank you, Mr. Connors.
Fräulein Carla, won't you come in?
Just for a moment, Herr Schmidt, to make sure you are comfortable in your new quarters.
I am indeed, Fräulein.
Would you like some tea sent up, or beer, perhaps?
No, Fräulein, but you are very thoughtful. In fact, I still do not feel I have thanked you enough for the generous allowance you made me on this room.
It is nothing. A few marks one way or the other.
To a poor student, it is much.
Perhaps it is because something about you recalls old times. Reminds me of someone. Like you, he was studying to be a doctor. But there was the war, and Aachen, when he was killed.
Now I understand, Fräulein Carla. War, and what it has done to our country. Foreigners pushing us this way and that. Why can't they leave us alone? Free Germany. That's what they call it here. But what is so free about it? Why don't these American soldiers pack up and go home?
You should not say that, not even if you think it. But I am keeping you from your work.
Fräulein Carla,
Yes, Herr Schmidt.
I'm wondering if I should ask you this.
What is it?
Well, my funds, as you know, are low. It will not be easy keeping myself at medical school. And since you are so kind, if I could help you out in the cafe at night, earn for myself a few more marks.
Wouldn't it be too much for you, studying all day and waiting on table at night?
One must live, my dear Fräulein. And even with the allowance you made me, I don't know how long I could afford these quarters.
Well, let me think it over.
Thank you.
Hoppla!
Oh, verzeihung.
Well, excuse me. Waiter.
Ja, mein Herr.
Tell Fraulein Beautiful there behind the bar to come on over. I'm inviting her to have a drink.
Versteh nicht.
Huh? Oh, forget it. I'll tell her myself. Look, a beer. Beer?
Beer?
Beer.
Ja.
Herr Schmidt, will you take the bar?
Certainly, Fräulein.
Good evening, Fräulein. The information tonight is little, except for a new airstrip the Americans are considering.
Nothing is little. And besides, it is not for you to judge. You have the location?
It's all here.
Good.
It was not easy getting away tonight. I had to plead a headache to the major.
You have nothing else to give me?
That is all for tonight, Fräulein.
There was a change in personnel at Shape last Friday. Why did you not tell me that?
I did not hear of it.
You should keep your eyes and ears more open. I would not like to notify the secret police you were failing us.
But believe me, Fräulein, you receive all the information I can gather. I'm telling you everything, as long as I have your assurance that nothing will happen to my father. You have news of him? He's all right?
Your father has been transferred to another camp near Warsaw. And it is because of my excellent reports about you that he is reasonably comfortable there.
I'm deeply thankful for that, Fräulein.
But understand, I cannot lie on those reports. I have been lenient as it is, and if your father is to remain secure, you should hold back nothing.
Ja, Fräulein, I understand.
Good. Tomorrow, then. The same time. Thank you, Herr Schmidt. I thought you would be thirsty.
Excuse me, how about joining me for a drink, huh?
Musik.
Yeah, can't be that good. Waiter. No. It's no fun drinking alone. Tell me, what do you do for excitement in this town?
Verständig.
Yeah. You don't overstay anything, do you? For the beer and keep the change. Thank you.
I don't understand it, Rudy. Moscow seems to know all about that new airstrip before we've even okayed it.
If I may suggest it, Herr Major, I think you should screen all the civilian employees again.
We've checked and rechecked. But I've got a couple of new special agents and hope they can dig up something. Is that the air operations report from Frankfurt?
Yeah.
I'll take it. Look at it later. You check with Sergeant Brady. He has a dispatch he wants to dictate.
Yes, Herr Major.
Sorry I'm late, sir, but I had to wait till you were alone.
That was my secretary. Sit down. Tell me, how are you coming?
Not so good. No runs, no hits, no errors. Not yet, anyway.
What do you think of Fräulein Carla?
Beautiful, but not dumb.
Well, she's definitely working for Soviet intelligence. Our Moscow office sent us a complete dossier on her.
Well, why don't we crack down on her?
Well, if we did, next week it would only be someone else. Getting her alone is not enough. We've got to get the entire spy ring dead to rights, or this leak will go on.
Sorry, Herr Major.
Yes, Rudy, what is it?
Here's another page to the report. I forgot to give you.
Thank you. You can go now.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry, Connors. I couldn't be helped. But don't worry about Rudy. He can be trusted implicitly. You've got to crack this case. Entirely too many secrets are sifting through to Moscow. Do you think you can do it?
Well, yes, sir, if we have enough time. There's nothing happening at Das Kleine Cafe that we're not seeing.
I detest a coward. Thinking about your own safety always. Why do you tell me about these agents now?
Believe me, Fräulein, I'm doing my best. As soon as I've found it out, I can write over.
You should have learned that for us days ago.
Yeah, Fräulein.
And you need not be frightened of Mr. Connors. He will be in no position to bother us. We have dealt with his kind before.
But there's not only Connors, there's another.
And it is for you to find out who he is. Are you practicing to be a cymbalum player, Mr. Connors?
No, I was just fooling around.
It is not too difficult to play. Maybe I could teach you a simple piece. Yeah?
Fine, fine.
You're holding those sticks too clumsy. You should put them in your hands like this.
Yeah?
Go ahead, play.
Hey, and then when I get home, I can be the life of the party, huh?
Herr Schmidt.
You seem quite busy, Fräulein.
I am moving out the baggage of our American friend.
He is leaving?
He has left.
I do not understand. You mean he is leaving without his things?
This is going into the baggage room until he returns with money for the rent. Not even 10 marks did he have on him. Does he think I am running a charity?
These Americans are strange people. Allow me, Fräulein.
Thank you.
Now you'll tell where your partner is.
How many times you gonna ask me that?
Where is he?
Like I told you before, I haven't got a partner.
You lie.
Oh, Rudy.
Yeah.
When you see the major, tell him it's your round.
I'm sorry it had to be this way.
Yeah, I'll bet you are.
It might be easier if you give them the information they ask.
It would be sensible to take Rudy's advice.
I seem to have a complete loss of memory.
Then may this will restore your memory. Well? Come, Frederick. We'll give him till tonight to clear his head. Auf Wiedersehen.
I guess that's it. Have those typed up as soon as possible.
Yes, sir.
Rudy,
Yes, Herr Major.
sit down for a minute. I have something to tell you. I had a dispatch from Warsaw Intelligence. This is going to be a terrible shock to you. It's about your father. He was executed 4 weeks ago. I'm sorry, son.
Schwein. They're swine.
That's why we're here, to put an end to this sort of thing. And with the help of loyal countrymen like yourself, we will.
Good evening, Fräulein. May we have a little talk?
Idiot. Have you been drinking? You should not be seen here. You will leave. Go quickly.
You don't want to talk here. Perhaps we could go to your room.
You are a madman. What is it you want here?
The truth about my father.
I told you yesterday. He is safe in a cab at Warsaw.
You should keep your eyes and ears more open, Fräulein Carla, as you would have me keep mine. My father is dead, and you know it. And I've been a fool playing into your hands. But now you're coming with me to the American authorities, and we will tell them everything. How we helped the communists, how we raised American agents, and how we're torturing Herr Connors. They are going to learn about the truth, even if it costs me a life in prison.
Now we shall see who gives the orders. Herr Schmidt.
Mr. Smith, baby. Now, where's Connors?
I will show you. There's a passageway under the alley to the vacant store.
And if Fräulein Carla will lead the way?
Steve!
Hi, Brad. Sorry I'm late.
thought you'd never get here. Thanks, pal. I'll remember this to my dying day, and believe me, this was about it.
On time, Rudy. Will I keep an eye on the Fraulein here? You okay?
Yeah, fine. But what about Buster here? Whose side are you on?
Your side, from now on. If I'm lucky enough to clear myself.
Well, we'll certainly see what we can do about it. But in the meantime, we have a little unfinished business with Fraulein Carla here.
Aren't you a little ahead of yourselves? Even if Rudy has given me information, there's no proof that I have passed it on to anyone.
Yeah, well, I got some ideas about that, too. Suppose we all adjourn to the cafe and listen to some charming Cymbalin music.
What do you gentlemen expect to find here?
Suppose you tell us and save us a lot of time and mess.
What do we do now, Brain?
Nothing. We're just gonna wait and watch. Steve, the guy with the hearing aid, watch him. Of course, that's it. I think I'll go out and join the customers. Rudy, keep your eye on the Fraulein. Steve, you watch the local talent and stay right behind me.
Take it easy, boys.
Just a minute. Just what I thought. This instrument's a dud. It's all rigged and wired so that our comrade here can tap out messages in Morse code to Buster with a hearing aid. Steve, I think if you help these gentlemen into their coats and hats, Major Norcross would like to talk to them. Well, my Fraulein Beautiful, I think we have an appointment with the United States Intelligence Service. But first, ik will gehabt. A beer in the house.
So that was in a batch of educational films, but obviously it wasn't educational. It was just like I said, a Cold War drama. I thought that there might be a kind of patriotic thing at the end. I mean, it's definitely propaganda, anti-Soviet propaganda. But this was from, I think it was the Schaefer Family Theater, which was a short-run series on NBC. So thank you, Schaefer Beer. For that. That was entertaining, needless to say. And I think that it's time to watch yet another magic moment brought to us by Encyclopedia Britannica. So here we go. Enjoy. Oh wow, that ended sooner than I thought. Yes, I had this film set up on the telecine, but I don't know. I'm not. I don't feel like showing it. Isn't that weird? It's so strange. And so I don't have something set up yet. Let me check this real quick to see if I have something. I should say that if you liked what you're watching today, or in general, you can donate to the AV Geeks by buying us coffee. Here's a link right here. You can also hit like, subscribe, ring the little bell for notifications, blah, blah, blah. What is this? It's silent. Wow. Skip, you're kind of lame today. Kind of taking off, let's see. No, saw that. Yeah, well, we'll just go ahead and watch this film. It's actually pretty great. It's called Perception, and it's kind of this thing you'd watch in Psychology 200, Intro to Psychology, about perception. And it's kind of, I don't know if these are all college students hanging out in a dorm. I mean, it's hard to tell. Like, college students all look like they're in their 30s or 40s, back in the 40s and 50s. So it's kind of hard to tell. So anyways, here's Perception. This is going to run a little bit longer than 2 o'clock, but it's fine. What do you got to do? Nothing. Here we go. Enjoy.
What psychologists mean by the word perception? Well, they have defined perception as the process through which we become aware of things around us and of what happens inside our own bodies. But is perception a mere sensing of a stimulus through the eyes, ears, and various organs of touch? Definitely not. Psychologists today know that human perception isn't nearly that simple. This conclusion is based on certain principles of perception which have been developed from experimental research. We can illustrate these principles of perception in this common room where a group of students is spending an evening. Some playing chess, others playing bridge, some studying, one man strumming a piano, another idly listening, two girls chatting, a student practicing magic. For instance, consider the principle of perceptual constancy. This means that our perception of objects remains constant even while the physical stimuli from those objects are changing. What shape is that sandwich plate? Well, circular, of course. But how did you know it was a circle? True, the image it makes on your retina will be a circle. But from any other position, the image on the retina is actually an ellipse. Yet despite this change, we still continue to perceive the plate as a circle. What shape are these picture frames? That's right, rectangular. But again, how did you know that? Head on, of course, they do strike the eye as rectangular. But from any other angle, the retinal image is actually a trapezoid, as you will see instantly when we remove the surrounding visual cues. But the moment the visual cues are restored, you again perceive the frames as rectangular. This tendency for the perceived shape to remain the same, irrespective of the position or conditions under which we view it, is called shape constancy. Another aspect of perceptual constancy is size constancy. Even though the image on your retina becomes larger, you realize the plate is merely coming closer to you. It actually stays the same size. Visual objects also appear constant in their degree of whiteness, grayness, or blackness. The plate looks darker, but you know that someone just turned off the light. Even when the light is turned on again, you still perceive the plate as the same shade of gray. This is what we call brightness constancy. Thus, perceptual constancy enables us to keep our perceptual world stable even when our sense impressions are recording changes in the size, shape, and brightness of objects around us. While perceptual constancy is usually helpful in our perception, it can also be employed to deceive us, as in the illusion of the diminishing cards. We see the cards as getting smaller. The performer helps to reinforce this illusion by squeezing the cards and by showing more of his fingers behind the cards each time. Going behind the scenes, however, we are shown that what is really changing each time is the spread of the cards. Not knowing this, and perceiving the performer's hands as constant in size, we see the cards as getting smaller. Another essential factor in perception is attention. Attention helps us to be selective in our perception of the multitude of stimuli that constantly bombard our sense organs. Thus, it is possible for us to concentrate our attention on something. The Black Queen, for example. The Black Queen becomes the focus of perception. Just outside it are things we're more or less vaguely aware of. The board, the other pieces, our opponent's belt buckle making a blurred image above the chessboard. Still further out in the margin of attention are hundreds of other stimuli bombarding our various sense organs. The sound of the piano. An argument about sports cars.
You can take the corner at 80 miles an hour.
Distant traffic. An airplane passing overhead. A room that's too warm, a collar that's too tight. But all we're thinking of is our next move, and so we perceive little else. Once the move has been made, attention can shift, and we now perceive that the room is too warm. Actually, attention is constantly shifting. What is at the focus one moment may be marginal the next. This shifting of attention has, however, a certain orderliness to it. Certain stimuli can, and usually do, get priority on our attention. Let's examine some of the factors that determine this priority. A distant sound that might be a single pistol shot gets no attention from our group. But when the same sound becomes louder and is repeated, it gets the attention of everyone. Well, almost everyone. Even when one activity dominates our attention, its usually is less. Other perceptions come fleetingly into the awareness and rest. You can look right at something and not see it until it moves. You perceive things that move when their surroundings again because of contrast. Another principle of perception, most of us reading this paragraph would overlook the typographical error in it. Because we always expect to see two M's in the word swimmer, we do see them, or think we do unless our attention is especially drawn to the mistake. What is this? Well, if you are first shown a series of numbers such as 10, 11, 12, you will have no trouble seeing the number 13. However, if you are first shown the letter A, you will then see that this is the letter B. What you see depends upon what you expect to see. Many illusions depend on this principle. In this trick, pretense of great muscular effort followed by a sudden giving in motion makes you expect a badly bent spoon. Is he really bending this coin? The coin your eye sees is, of course, as flat as ever. But by sliding his fingers in and out across the coin, he makes it appear to bend. An even more celebrated illusion based on expectancy is this slightly modified version of the good old shell and pea game. In this one, the illusionist actually builds up the false expectations from the start. Several times he makes the peas multiply in his left hand, a neat trick in itself, so that by now you've been led to expect that this is the point of the trick, and that it's about to happen again. So your perceptual habits fill in the missing details and make you think you actually saw the peas placed there, and, lo and behold, they never got there at all. In short, we see what we are set to see. Thus, set or expectancy plays a major role in directing and ordering the succession of our perceptual experiences. Another principle is that perception is really an organizing process, a process that organizes sense data into a meaningful result. For example, with normal perception, we see tables, floors, walls, people, pictures, and so on, as objects organized and clear in a pattern. Without the organizing processes of perception, the world would appear very strange, probably like a picture that is out of focus. These organizing processes consist of tendencies that are in part learned and are in part inborn or unlearned. Both kinds of tendencies help us to bring into focus the world around us. One kind of organizing tendency is to perceive figure and ground. By this we mean that objects or figures like this girl are perceived as distinct objects because they are seen as standing out from their general sensory background. Words are perceived as being on a page, and this holds true whether they are in black letters on white ground or the other way round. Just as pictures hang on a wall, so we also see the freckles as being on the nose. We perceive a whiff of perfume as standing out against the relatively neutral background of other odors in a room. As distinctly as when we listen to Boogie Woogie, the varied figure in the treble stands out against the ground of the recurring patterns in the bass. All these are examples of figure-ground perception. This tendency to perceive a figure on a ground is demonstrated by this reversible figure-ground relation. Either you see a white vase against a black ground, or you see two black profiles against a ground. Notice that it is difficult to see both vase and profiles simultaneously. Another kind of organizing tendency in perception is called grouping. Here are 6 vertical lines, but because of the way they are grouped, you probably see them as 3 pairs of parallel lines. Though your eye must see these as individual dots, you can't help perceiving them grouped together as a 6-pointed star. With a slight change, you now perceive not individual dots, but 2 superimposed triangles. To the retina of your eye, these are just 4 unconnected lines. But because of their grouping, the lines appear to extend and meet to form a perfect square. From our observations of a group of people in a common room, we have noted several basic principles of perception. First, we noted the principle of shape constancy, whereby shapes usually appear the same whether we view them head-on or from an angle. Next, we noted that sizes tend to appear constant whether objects are near or far away. And brightness similarly remains constant even under different illuminations. Another principle of human perception is attention. We perceive best what we attend to. Attention divides the field of experience into a focus that is clearly perceived, and a margin of which we have only hazy perception. The bigger, the more intense or louder a stimulus is, and the more it is repeated, the more likely it is to capture our attention and be perceived. We also noted that contrast between a stationary object and a moving background immediately draws our attention to the object. Another principle of human perception is expectancy. We tend to perceive what we expect to perceive. And finally, we noted the principle that perceptual processes organize the world around a person into objects and groups of objects. Evidence of this organizing process is that objects are usually seen as figures on a ground and are, in fact, difficult to perceive in any other way. Further evidence that human perception is an organizing process is the way we perceive as grouped together those objects that are close to each other or similar to each other, or symmetrically arranged, or form some pattern, or form a continuous line. Human perception, then, is a set of extremely elaborate processes through which we organize our sensory impressions into clear, usable, meaningful pictures of the objects and events around us and inside us.
Well, like many of the films I have in my collection, that was missing the title, and it was missing the end. The reason for that, of course, is when someone who doesn't know how to use a 16mm projector threads the projector and they don't have the loop right, it shreds the sprockets or shreds the film itself. It gets caught up and kind of gets bent, and so somebody clips it out. So that's where that is from. Hey, thank you so much, Jim, Alex, Pamela, and Macon for delicious coffee. Oh yeah, just to update on a couple of things. One, next week is the Found Footage Festival avgeeks tournament where we're going to compete, and it's going to be oh boy, I can't remember what night it is. It's going to be 9 o'clock on a on a Thursday night. No, is that right? Yes, Thursday night, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And I was hoping to get our 16mm jerseys today to compete with their VHS jerseys that Found Footage Festival has. They have some pretty strong songs that they are going to use. So, yeah, I'll talk more about that next week. Also, I was complaining about Apple and about a new Apple machine that I got and trying to get the RAID to recognize it. And at first I was like, is it G-Tech's fault? Is it Apple's fault? And I always default to making it Apple's fault because Apple sucks. Sure enough, it was Apple's fault. It was basically, you had to do this extra step to enable third-party extensions. And it was just really, 45 minutes of my life that are gone because of Apple being annoying. On that note, everybody have a good weekend, and we will see you again on Monday. Again, if you like what you saw, you can buy us coffee, and so thank you for those of you that did. But you can also tell the world that you like AV Geeks by hitting like, subscribe, ringing a notification bell, which is something that other podcasters tell you to do. You can always comment and share this with other people that you think would dig it. So, everybody have a great weekend. Please rewind, love each other, and we will see you again soon. Take care.